now we're going to move on to case 5, Gabby Petito's case. Not her case, but her parents have sued the Moab police for wrongful death, saying that if they did their job, if they would have followed state of Utah's laws about domestic violence or interpersonal violence, that she would still be alive. Okay, so I think there's at least a 51% chance she would still be alive. I mean, I can't say 100%, but if she would have been arrested or Brian would have been arrested, their parents would have been alerted and there would have been some intervention there. I do believe that is true. I do believe that if the police would have done and followed the law to the letter, and we have all of the body cam where they're trying so hard not to do anything. They don't want to make an arrest. And the guy even says, well, the reason that's written this way is because women will say, no, this, blah, blah, blah. Dude. Or women will be sitting there crying hysterically with marks all over them saying, it's my fault. It's my fault. I mean, Gabby was classic battered woman syndrome. And I still think Brian was in the beginning stages of schizophrenia. I personally believe that he was acting erratically and that she, as just a 20-something, was trying to figure out what the hell was going on with his brain. Like, why was he suddenly switching his personality? I personally believe it. That's my theory. But regardless, he was getting more and more erratic and violent with her. And anybody could see her taking the blame was one of those weird things that victims do. Whether they're children, they're scared, they don't want to be in trouble. And she was hysterical, and you could see marks on her. And it wasn't really highlighted before, but you could see. So they're looking at Brian and going, oh, he has a scratch here. Yeah, she had scratches all over. She had a cut. She was bleeding. Someone should have gone, or both of them. If they thought both of them were aggressive, they should have gone to jail. They should have, that was a dangerous situation. The big thing that Gabby's parents are saying is the 911 callers were ignored. Because the 911 call, right away, the first one, he said the man hit the girl and he threw, was pushing her away, threw her stuff out the window and took off. Number one, police. That was her van, so that is vehicle theft. And he was leaving, he stole her car, was trying to steal her car, and was abandoning her in the desert. So the fact that they saw that situation and what Gabby's parents are saying and what has become more and more apparent after they did this and we looked into it, not me, internet sleuths and such. One of the officers, yeah, he had a checkered past. Oh, what was it? Domestic violence against his wife. In fact, he was the dude talking to Brian about, yeah, I've been married 5 years. Yeah, she's bro code. Yeah, he was more than willing to frame Brian. And they told Gabby. Again, so let's go back to, Caitlin Armstrong in the box. And the cop saying, oh, I would have let her walk out. Like somebody knew that. Gabby was being told, yeah, you're the aggressor here. You've beaten up him. Now, in her mind, she knows that's insane. And she's in big trouble. And now she's going to get in even more trouble. And now the people that are supposed to protect her are going to hurt her. So not only is Brian hurting her, but now she's going, she's in the middle of the desert. She's got her boyfriend's going wackadoodle. And now she's got these cops pulling cop. Well, you're the problem. And she just wants it all to go. I am telling you, the way she was acting, her mother and father should have been called. Somebody should have been called. She was hysterical, and she obviously was vulnerable. And if you don't know that that looks like a battered woman, then you shouldn't be a cop. Because cops, why are you a cop? Just to shoot at bad guys? See, that's the thing. That's not what being a cop is. You're a community helper. Helping helping, not shooting. There's been a sort of misframing of what we think, or I think what police officers think their job is. Like, it's not to protect themselves and their brotherhood against everybody else. And I know not all cops are like that, you guys. But I'm just saying, that does exist. And I think and I don't blame them as a whole. I think there's been a lot of training with some people purposefully training police officers to think more of like, protect you and your own. Like what happened in Uvalde. Like, oh, you guys protect yourself first. Yeah, like forget those kids being shot at, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense if you think it all the way through. But if you're constantly being told to, like, watch out for the bad guys, protect your brothers, protect yourself, like it's us against them, that becomes a mindset. And I can't help but think that in Moab, the mindset was the man is in charge and women should be, like Gabby was a problem to them. She shouldn't have been. She should have been somebody to help. It was clear. Brian was the problem. He's joking, laughing. He took off in somebody else's vehicle. There were 911 calls about that, and yet the cops turned it into somehow she was the problem. All right, so I think Gabby's parents are in the right, and as I said at the beginning, and again, so the facts are that that the officers did not follow the law. The facts are that Gabby had a lot more marks on her that can be seen in the video that nobody really paid attention to at the time, and that she had clear symptoms of being the person that was the victim. And we know the guy has a history, and his bias it inhibited him from doing the right thing and following the law in Utah. So Gabby's parents are suing for $50 million. They are not looking, I'm sure, for $50 million. What they're doing is, that is a big enough price tag that will get the attention to people so that they will make changes. And that's why sometimes you get into legal action to make a systemic change. And you don't make a systemic change without making a really big financial impact, unfortunately. All right. So that was case 5. This is case 6. Up to case 6. Raise a glass. We've got our OnlyFans model murderer. Okay, so we have an interesting situation. I just talked about the GabbyPetito case. They said Abby was the perpetrator because Brian had a mark on him, without looking at all the marks on Gabby and Gabby's behavior and the fact a lot of other situational context things. But we have seen, you can't just say like it's the girl though, right? It's the girl or it's the boy. You have to look at the context. So in the Clenney case, this week suddenly, so I missed it. Let's back it up a little bit. Right before my last upload on November 3rd, the prosecutor's office in the Miami-Dade office released text messages from Christian Abasadi, the victim's phone. And boy, should you read those. New York Post had them, but so did, they quoted the Miami Herald. Let me just tell you, she had stabbed him before. She had stabbed him and hurt him bad enough he was hospitalized for a few days. I believe that's when they lived in Texas. And she didn't visit him that. And he was like, why aren't you visiting me? You did this to me. You should at least visit to me. And she's like, yeah, well. And then later on she said she was sorry. So she had a history of harming him with a knife. A week before, I believe, she... So 2 things came out. The text messages where he says like, thanks for like you're hitting me so much, like you better watch, sort of basically threatened to out her on public media saying like, hey, the guy that you say the worst things to. So, and there was audio released of her with racial slurs saying N-word at him. and slapping him hard enough to knock out stitches that he had. I think from an injury she gave him. So, and he was basically saying, like, you should be careful because the person that you say the worst things to and that you hurt and slice or something like that, that they could maybe tell on you, blah, blah, blah. So, then that was released right after her attorneys had released a video of her in her apartment the day before of the killing, where she was like, look, I just want him out, and I want to get a restraining order first. I want to get it first before him. Like, and she's like, they're like, ma'am, you have to go to the court. Well, I want to get it before he does. Like, and somebody in the comments that I was reading under that, it's very true. If you're concerned with keeping away a dangerous person, do you say, I want to get it first? I need to get a restraining order first? That's your concern, the order of it? And she's like talking, and she's in her obligatory no clothes, like just a bikini top, which is fine, but I'm saying, then this is what I'm saying. So she releases that, then the Miami-Dade prosecution releases all these text messages and this video of her using racial slurs and him texting her about past injuries and her stabbing. She obviously is violent towards him. And we saw the earliest thing that they released was, they've got this teeny tiny little blonde girl who's like, I'm self-defense. But then there's all this evidence that she was like hell on wheels. I don't know if you've ever known some small girls who are like nothing to be messed with. And he is almost like submissive to her in these texts. Like, you need to visit me you didn't even visit me in the hospital after hurting me. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And then later she's like, I guess I could have. So the thing is, it reminds me of like the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case, where women expect to get the benefit of the doubt, and they're not very often do people lie about this stuff, but when they do, they always use that. So this, within the past 24 hours, or like 36 hours, Courtney Clenney has this, she has pictures where she has bruises. Now, the pictures aren't dated. What does that remind you of, right? Amber. And her. And allegedly. I don't know why I'm saying allegedly. It was all in that trial. Her mom took the picture of her bruises. And people are like analyzing where the bruises are, and they're like, that's where you would get like cosmetic stuff, and they're like perfectly round. Here's the deal. She's an OnlyFans model, and there will be copious amounts of pictures of her without, I think, a stitch of clothing on, let alone like just string bikinis. So her thinking she's clever, taking pictures of bruises suddenly that her mom took. I mean, her mom was the person she called in between stabbing him and calling 911. On a 911 call, she is heard saying, I'm so sorry, baby. When he's like, I can't feel my arm. I can't feel my arm. I think I'm gonna. Like, he was bleeding out. She just happened to hit the carotid artery. She stabbed him like a crazy person, but instead of in the leg, this time she got him right in a place, like he had no time. He bled out. So, and she was looked at by the police. If she had bruising then, if it looked like a fight, there will be copious amounts, trust me, of pictures and more text messages. It will become even more clear. This girl is playing a very dangerous game. And her little attorney, who is, what's his name? Fred like Patino. Is that his name? First of all, her mom taking the picture. Come on now. Here's what he texted her. Are you ready for this? The text messages. He said, February was the worst month I had so far. I got cheated on, I got called that word again, and you know what that word is. It starts with an N. I got slapped in my stitches that has reopened multiple times, and it's not healing fast enough. He also said, I still gave you a good day, even though my leg was hurting, because my girlfriend stabbed me. Did I make you feel like SHIT for stabbing me? No. Just sucked it up and hoped tomorrow will be better. And then she texted him saying she was tired of having to explain how he should act. I mean, yeah, he also texted, honestly, think to yourself, he was saying this to her. Honestly, think to yourself, I've cut this person's face. I have stabbed him. I have called him out to his name to the highest level. That's the N word. And he could, if he was an evil person, he could ruin my career. He could go to the police, go to the courtroom. See, he was letting her know that he was being tired of this. They were having these fights. It was an obviously very toxic relationship. Her lawyer, Frank Petito, said that the prosecutors are cherry picking and releasing evidence to the public that doesn't tell the whole story. Okay, so Frank, go watch the Johnny Depp trial. Go watch it. Sir. Free legal advice for you from a court watcher. Yeah. Amber forgot that she had all these pictures taken with like no clothes on days when she claimed she had bruises so bad up and down her back. Oops, I'm sorry. Same day you wore a backless dress? Ma'am. I think not. So Frankie boy, you get with Miss Clenney and you make a plea deal, because I guarantee you that little, oh, my mom took these pictures of me when I had bruises from Toby, ain't gonna fly. They'll find out that the pictures were like pictures of pictures of pictures, and you can't tell where they came from, which is for a reason. We all know about documentation. You keep the date, you keep the original photo so that it can be documented. When you can't find the date on it, it's because it's a fake. Frank, that's my advice to you. We'll find out more about model murderer. You decide.